There is this assumption that doing a Sankofa journey back to the motherland will be filled with welcoming people and smiling faces. I viscerally understand why that is for some of you, but the issue is, which people tend to often overlook, is that there is nothing romantic about our collective Ma'afa experience. And to be honest, it can get real messy. If you're new here, karibu, a big Swahili welcome to you. My name is Yajaira, and this channel is about building a regenerative way of living. I share my journey as a birth doula, educator, filmmaker, and future farmer building something what I call kin and soil. In this video, I'll be discussing my lived experiences residing in Tanzania. And before I get into it all, I want to talk about something that really got under my skin while I was out there. I truly don't understand why some of you go to other people's countries and proceed to calling yourself expats. It baffles me every time, and maybe it's because I'm a daughter of immigrants, but just because you come from America or the UK doesn't mean that you're not an immigrant when you go to another country, whether their GDP is less than the country that you're a citizen of. I think that's something that needs to be discussed more, but that's not what this video is about. So let's talk about the real deal Holyfield on getting sick in a place where the news was saying that people were going to be dying like flies in the streets during the planning. Newsflash, it never happens, okay? I did get sick with the Rona like 2 or 3 times in total from the years 2020 to 23. One time was right when it hit the US, one when I was in Panama, and one when I think I came back to the US. But to be honest, Corona was never a real issue for me. You know, I didn't lose my taste, none of that stuff. It just kind of felt like the flu. But the one that put me in the hospital live and in color was getting sick with malaria. First time I got malaria, I thought I was gonna die, y'all. Anyone that has lived in the global south knows that it's almost like a rite of passage the first time that you get malaria. So as you may all know, it's transmitted through demon mosquitoes, and there's really no way around it. Getting malaria, someone told me, is like a kind of test, you know, like the land gives you to show yourself approved. Basically, can you hang with the big dogs is the test. And if you survive the first time, every time after that doesn't hurt as much. And I know that because I caught malaria 3 times after that, and every time it was more manageable than the time before. Malaria also makes you kind of loopy, like you can get vivid dreams, hallucinations, stuff like that. And I remember the first time that I was in the hospital, I was alone. And to be honest, that part was, I think, the most painful. But, you know, I just remember turning on the TV and I've always been this way. When I'm feeling sick, I always try to find a cartoon to watch. So I'm in this foreign country and I can't find my usuals, you know, there's no Tom and Jerry, no Angry Beavers, no Courage the Cowardly Dog, but I flipped to this channel and it's playing the same cartoon nonstop. And that was the day that I fell in love with Rick the Raven. So Rick the Raven is an old cartoon about this little blue bird and his shenanigans, and somewhere in my delirium, my mind said that we have to survive the next minute to see how Rick was going to solve his problems. And that's how I got through my rite of passage. Also with the help of professional doctors, of course. But hands down, the best hospital in Dar es Salaam is Sali International Hospital. I've always received great care there. And I live another day to tell my tale. Asante Mungu, you know, I thank God. And for the cartoon lovers out there, I'll put a link of a playlist in the description. So as some of you know, not only was I living in Tanzania, but I was also filming my first documentary called Teacher Don't Teach Me Nonsense. The link is also in the description. But my first run-in with the patriarchy there was in the art scene. It was almost impossible to find women filmmakers. So that was already a red flag. And that seemed to be my takeaway from observing a lot of different corners of the culture. For one, there is a visible imbalance in the jobs that are available to men and the jobs that are available to women. Although this is changing a little, these things still persist. There is very little agency I observed with our sisters out there, and it breaks my heart because I met so many brilliant, beautiful women. You know how the story goes. Man makes money, man drinks it away, or spends it on ladies of the night, which leaves very little for his actual family. Or you have scenarios of cisgen who are downright being mistreated simply for existing. I saw this clip the other day, very disturbing clip, by the way, in Nigeria and Delta State, having what they call a fertility festival, which is basically code for just sexually assaulting women. And I already hear some of y'all in the comments saying like, oh, that was AI, that was fake news. But I was told by trusted friends that it was indeed real. You know, we can't keep brushing these things under the rug. Like, you have men on the continent that are forcibly marrying girls around the ages of 12 and 13 in certain parts of Africa. And let's not even get into the stats surrounding FGM and domestic violence. They're horrendous, just FYI. I'm not saying, oh, America is great and look at those heathens over there. No, that's not it at all, because it's only a matter of time before the Chitauri that ran America come into the light for the world to see. Notice I said past tense because their time is up. But what I am saying, Thomas Sankara already told us that a nation can rise no higher than its women. He said, and I quote, "We do not talk about women's emancipation as an act of charity or out of a surge of compassion, but it is a basic necessity for the revolution to triumph." He also already told y'all back in the 80s, women hold up the other half of the sky. And now look at Burkina Faso, a shining example of what is possible in Africa. I'm not saying that they're perfect, but they are surely making leaps and bounds further than any other African country right now, in my opinion. So do y'all see the correlation? Are you picking up what I'm putting down? Because when you take care of the women in the land, in return, you become an exemplar, okay? And it also helps that Captain Ibrahim Traore is a hottie, so, you know. Speaking of hotties, me personally, I would proceed with much caution when dating continental African-born men, especially if they've never left the environment where they're raised. I hate to be the one to say it, but so many people get taken advantage of in this Sankofa process. It's not even funny. Whether you're a man or a woman, you know, you go with your best intentions, wanting to share what you have with others, but because of the imbalanced exchange rate and perceived strength of the dollar, more often than not, you'll come across people who are ready to take advantage of you. Ask me how I know. The brothers are fine out there, but you just have to be careful. Don't move in with them. Don't let them move in with you. Don't give no money to nobody unless you have a contractual agreement for the commission. And even then, you're still taking a chance. And please, for the love of God, don't let anyone disrespect you in any language. This should be your modus operandi for any man in any country, but you catch my drift. I know I'm being somewhat vague, but remember what I said in my first video. I reserve the right to keep parts of my life exclusive to me and the presence of my people. And also, I don't believe it's fully my place to highlight the totality of these problems, you know? I encourage more African-born family members to speak truth to power on what's really going on. And if you can, I also encourage y'all to find some African-born storytellers to hear more about the state of affairs in their respective countries. There's this Baba out in Kenya I really enjoy listening to. I think he has a good perspective on the culture, so I'll also put his links in the description. Anyway, moving on. Something that happened while I was living out there was the land disputes turning into violent incidents in Ghana. And the reason I'm bringing it up in this video is because I overheard folks in Tanzania complaining about the price of housing going up and kind of sort of blaming it on the diaspora. So here's the part that may be hard for people to swallow, but are those Black Americans the landlords who are making the rent go up? No, it's typically a citizen of the country. So there was this whole situation while I was living there where Magufuli had outlawed pricing things in USD because he wanted to bring up the value of the shilling, which cool, no problem. But there were at least 3 landlords that I remember asking me for the rent in dollars. And these were Tanzanian citizens, not foreigners. This was against the law, but who was going to check them? Nobody. So I'll do another video on this in the future about a code of conduct that we as Black Americans or anyone from the diaspora really can use when moving to other countries. But just know that even with this code of conduct, it still may be difficult to enter into whatever nation that you're going to, because the people of that nation are so hell-bent on getting greenbacks. Every time I heard a comment about Black Americans driving up the price or anything in Tanzania, I would just sit there stupefied because we were not the ones setting the price, and we're still not setting the price. So for that, I would say, check your countrymen and women, hold each other accountable. Like, you mean to tell me before I got here, this apartment was Lakitano, which is like the equivalent of $250 USD. And then magically, all of a sudden, the price is now 800 USD just because I'm the one asking for it? Like, in what reality? And don't give them a deposit. Like, you'll never see it again. Even if you leave the apartment nice and neat and everything in its place, they're going to start pretending not to understand English. So you've been forewarned. Throughout dealing with getting sick, the patriarchy, people trying to hit a quick lick, I noticed myself not caring as much about time. This was one of the positive sides of my journey there. I remember one day feeling the breeze with a friend, and I'll never forget what she said to me. She said that we never have to worry about time because we don't worry about when our food is going to come. Like, there's always a tree in arm's length to grab a piece of fruit from. In Swahili, they say, haraka haraka haina baraka, which translates basically to fast, fast brings no blessings. And to be honest, that's very true. So much of life in the States is actually destructive, and most people aren't even tapped into how inhumane it is. Let's take daylight savings time, for example. You can really never quite settle into your reality because the sun is always coming up and going down at a different time. Like, what Rumpelstiltskin agreement is this? Like, I don't know. Something that I didn't know that I needed until I lived in Tanzania was seeing the sun wake up and go to sleep at the same time every day, no matter the season. There's a better cadence to when you live like that. And for some reason, it feels like time seems to move slower like that. I also learned and saw with my own two eyes this wonderful, magical, beautiful place called Lake Nyanza. This was a big catalyst in leveling up in my decolonization process because so much of what the colonizers took from us were these spiritual seats of power. This lake is the origin point of the Nile, and it looks like an ocean. Wrap your mind around that for a second. I learned that majority of Tanzania's presidents come from that lake region, and back in the day, there was also a high priestess named Nyabingi, who was said to have supernatural abilities, who also came from this lake. I learned that people used to give offerings to her in this area as tribute to her to basically keep them safe from invaders. And to be honest, that's all I'm gonna speak about in the public for right now. But it's not lost on me that this area was stolen by Queen Victoria, which is why I don't call the lake by her namesake, but by its true name, Lake Nyanza. Close to that area is Mount Kilimanjaro, Mount Meru. The whole of East Africa really is full of mountains, the Ruwenzoris, or the Mountains of the Moon. And also in this area during ancient Kemet's time, this was the place where pharaohs used to come to be crowned. So needless to say, there is a lot of esoteric meaning to this area, and I'll just leave it there. As much as there are pitfalls on this Sankofa journey, you really do need to come and experience it for yourself. Which leads me to my last point. Another reason why I didn't document my experience publicly in real time was because I was doing a lot of observing on different levels while I was there. There were many YouTubers who came on this very public platform and showcased the ways that they were scammed by Tanzanians, or some of them were talking about running out of money in Tanzania, or even there were people showing themselves to be big Black fist Pan-Africans on YouTube just to get sympathy and funding from our elders back in the US. So I really want to navigate some of this together because I want y'all to walk away from this video with some keys to cut through the noise. Yes, there are Tanzanians who scam, and I will leave it to the African-born storytellers to really talk about that. But from my side of it, there were and still are African-descended people from the US and the UK who are also scamming other Americans in Tanzania. It's not just Tanzanians who are scamming, okay? Like, hear me when I say this. It always gave me the ick when I heard Black people talking about their repatriation consultations. although some of those same people have tried to tuck their tail now, I still see people doing this. So I need you to turn up the volume, okay? Escúchame bien. Listen good. No one can give you the black print on how to make this leap overseas. And I literally mean no one, not even me, okay? Everyone's experience with a place can be as varied as grains of sand because everyone is going to be coming with a different set of cards, okay? Some people are coming with small children. Some people are coming alone. Some people are navigating, taking care of their elderly parents. And some people are coming as adoptees or estranged from any family at all that they feel close to. What really grinds my gears, though, is seeing people pontificate as if they are Pan-African or have an African consciousness, talking about how America is Babylon and the worst place to be, but then you turn around and charge people for repatriation consultations? Like, in what reality does this make sense? Oh, America is this big old prison and I got free and now I'm going to charge you how to get free as well. Like, what? Like, these are the people that Harriet Tubman would have left behind, to be honest. Because, like, if you really feel that what you have can liberate people from the gravest crime against humanity, aka the Ma'afa, or better known as the trans-Saharan or transatlantic slave trade, you would be doing all that you can to get your folks to a safe place. And charging people knowing all the cards that are stacked against us in the Americas and in Europe is clown behavior, to say the least. Like, are you guys okay? Are you well? Let me calm down. And drink some water. Sad to say, I got caught by one of these scammers too. What got me was she was saying that she was going to have this membership club to help others actually open businesses in Tanzania. And I got into the group, and to be honest, there was no value outside of what I already knew about opening a business in Tanzania. Luckily, I wasn't out of too much money, but it gave me an overstanding not to trust anybody that has this type of business model. And like, just to go back, I want y'all to do a little exercise for me, please, a little bit of homework. You know, if you've been following any of these diasporans that have been documenting their experiences traveling, I want you to go back to some of their older videos, like from 2020, 2024, and see if they had repatriation consultations as a service. If they did, I encourage you to unfollow them immediately, okay? I even heard of people who went as far as giving folks money to secure them land before they even got to Tanzania. Like, you know, they were moving a few months later and essentially the people that they gave the money to ran away with their money. Like, please, y'all, please don't give anyone any money before you get to the continent, no matter how charismatic they sound, okay? There are no shortcuts in this Sankofa journey, and no one can do the work for you. Everyone literally has to pick themselves out the mud and go where Jah is calling you. Your experience should be yours alone to shape. What do the people say? Others may have gotten the call, but it wasn't a conference call. Okay, full stop. And also, please understand that whatever amount of money you think you will need, I'm gonna need you to double it. Okay, because there are unforeseen circumstances that money can help mitigate. Like, you have to remember, Ghana started their year of return in December 2019. And there were people and families who were preparing to move to Ghana the next year, particularly in the summer when the school let out for the babies. So, like, as we know, due to what happened, the entire world pretty much shut down. Okay, Ghana's airport was closed. And I think it was only Tanzania that was open at the time in Africa. So you had people that were already on their way to Ghana that decided to come to Tanzania since it was open. And some people left once Ghana opened back up, but others stayed really without having a concrete plan. You know, I don't fault those people or speak negatively on them because the world was in disarray at that time, y'all. Like, come on, everything was everywhere. Like, but along with the repatriation consultation con artists, there were also this wave of people that were speaking negatively on our brothers and sisters who had to leave due to financial reasons. And some of these YouTubers are the same ones who were offering repat consultations as a service. So peep the pattern there, okay? I've met people on my journey living in Tanzania that came with $1,000 to their name and found a way to work it out. And I've also met people who came with thousands upon thousands of dollars and couldn't find a way to make it work. So this is not a critique on those people, because what these negative Nancy YouTubers fail to realize is at least those people tried. Like, yeah, some of them may not have had the best planning skills. Yeah, some of them probably were leaning too hard into romanticizing the return, but why talk trash about them? Like, we should idealize our return because it is something that was taken from us. And no amount of people screaming, get over it, whatever, like, it's not going to make it go away. Never forget the blood that was shed for you to be a living, breathing organism on planet Earth at such a time as this. And to be honest, if you're African American, you're nothing short of a miracle, okay? Just let it be known. If you ever muster up the bravery and the strength to pack up everything that you have ever known and move back to Africa, you're one of a very select few, no matter how it ends. Like, this journey has to be enough, y'all. Please let the cultural amnesia rest. Like, think about it. There's so many of our ancestors that were wanting, like, hoping and praying to go back because they were not confused on their reality as prisoners of war, And you go back, even if just for a visit, like, that's doing a lot. Hail yourself for being brave enough to exercise your humanity. I understand now that you can do all the planning and research and due diligence, as people love to say, and the outcome still may not be what you had hoped. This was my experience. Like, if you have to go back or come back to the Americas or the lakes and the rivers that you're used to, that's okay. And it doesn't make you any less strong or intelligent. Sometimes you just have to regroup and take a drink of water. If you observe any immigrant population in the Americas, you will see that they work to maintain the connection to the land that they were birthed in, while also learning the ways of the place that they moved to. Some would call this assimilation, okay? This is a strength, and it's not so easy for everyone to pull off. Sometimes the culture you assimilated into pulls you in deeper, and sometimes home changes meaning for you. Sometimes what you once considered home becomes a place that you actually renounce. I don't know if y'all saw this, but did you see the American government lowered the price to renounce American citizenship like a month or two ago? Again, peep the pattern, okay? Whatever choice people make in their immigration journeys are deeply personal to them. I'll give you a good example of this. I used to discourage Tanzanians I met against moving to the US. And I personally had to check myself on that because their lived experience is different than mine. They may need somewhere in this point of their life where they can work and make a decent amount of money, or a place that has better laws surrounding starting their business. I can't now look at someone who's not American and be like, oh, America is a plantation, you shouldn't come. Although I may feel that way, and although it's very true, who am I to guide them one way or another? Because the cards that they're holding are different than the cards that I'm holding. So for the sake of time, I'll just end my soliloquy there. But like, if you are thinking of moving from the US, welcome, congratulations. You're in for the ride of your life, okay? Just know that. If you want to move to Africa, yes, I know Africa is a continent, but it's also a lot to say the continent of Africa every single time. So whatever, if you're looking to move to Africa or anywhere for that matter, don't think it's going to be any better than where you're from, where you came from. And I'm mostly talking to Black Americans and other Ma'afa descendants when I say that. Everything can still be transactional. You can still experience isms. It may not be racism, but the effects of classism can still affect you just as much. And you will still probably experience people wanting to use you for your perceived wealth or strength. You may be given the runaround by people who may not respect the hustle and labor it took for you to rub some coins together. So just keep those things in mind. I'm not saying don't go to these places. I'm saying go with eyes wide open. Go with an understanding that the wound that we feel from slavery will not entirely be healed just by moving back to Africa. So if you have questions, drop them down below. I'll do my best to answer them from my lived experience. And you can also watch part 1 of this discussion. If you've made it to the end of this video, thank you for watching and joining me on this journey. Go and touch some grass with your people. And in the next video, I will be teaching about a wellness practice that I learned while living in East Africa. Sending love to all benevolent beings. Amani na upendo.